In 3, 2, 1.
And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners work session. We're still just dealing with budget. And this morning, it's October 9th. This morning, we'll be talking about Superior Court, Juvenile Court, and the Clerk's office. And then this afternoon, we will be back with District Court, Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and Public Defense. Action-packed day. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Also present is Commissioner Gary Edwards, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and her band of renown. We also have the Court Administrator, Superior Court Administrator Pam Hartman-Beyer, and Georgia Christian. What is your title, Georgia?
A Senior Management Analyst for Superior and Juvenile Court.
Thank you. And who am I missing, Ramiro?
I think you got to cover. We have Patty Rosetto and Denise Doty, and Olivia.
Yep.
And Olivia's just joined us.
All right. Is Commissioner Minster coming in today?
I assume he is. So he might be running a couple minutes late, but yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you for that. And we're ready to roll the ball down the road. Here we go. Robin.
I am going to welcome our guests from Superior Court and turn it right over to Pam.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, commissioners, and good morning. I want to thank you for this opportunity to present Superior Court's budget requests for 2021. I apologize on behalf of Judge Price. He's unfortunately in calendars this morning, so he's unable to join the budget presentation. But that does not mean he does not believe that this is important. And if there's any other questions he can assist with in the future, please let me know, and he'll make himself available.
That's not a bad reflection. No need to apologize, but thank you, Pam.
Thank you. I watched your presentation. Robin, are you going to be putting up the budget slide? I apologize. I should have talked to you ahead of the time.
No, that's okay. We can do that for you, but I need to get it. Olivia will send it to me.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to just jump in real quick to try to summarize what Superior Court's functions are. As Robin indicated and Ramiro indicated yesterday, it's hard to summarize what we do in totality. But Superior Court is a state trial court of general jurisdiction and hears major criminal matters such as felonies, civil cases, appeals from lower courts, and appeals from state administrative agencies. We have 8 elected judges who hear all matters and 3 court commissioners who primarily hear Family and Juvenile Court and Involuntary Treatment Act cases. We also, in addition to that, run a variety of different services related to the courts, including jury services for both Superior and District Court, and court security for buildings 2, 3, and Family and Juvenile Court. I hope that we can get our presentation up on the board shortly, but I wanted to jump into the funds managed by Superior Court and just note that most of our costs are mainly personnel costs, but we do have professional service fees that are a direct result of unfunded mandates and are all constitutionally based. We don't have spare room for extra services. These are all mandatory requirements for our court. So I don't know, Robin, if you lead this slide or if you would like Georgia to. And I apologize, commissioners, that you don't know Georgia, but Georgia is our new financial manager for Superior Court. She has been the financial manager for Juvenile Court for quite some time, and we are lucky to have the expertise of Georgia and have a combined financial services office, which is really a lean project, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later.
So I'm going to turn it over to Georgia, who I may say I am very pleased is doing both juvenile and Superior Court now. So yay, and take it away, Georgia.
Well, thank you, everyone. That was a great introduction. I appreciate it. Just to give you an overview, of course, we're mainly funded through the general fund. We do get some funding through treatment sales tax for our drug court, DUI court. Also, our family recovery court is funded through there, and some smaller programs over at our family court site are also funded through there. One of our requests will be a Heart Strides program, which is equine therapy for our family court, family recovery court participants. And it sounds to me like the TST advisory committee is recommending that go forward. We have another request with a Safe Babies Court. It's a pilot project. And it's for a year. We're hoping that TST could fund that partially for 2021 when that pilot grant ends. We also have a couple of restricted special revenue funds here that I have on the fund table. I know that they require a 10-year financial plan, and we need to complete that and get it to the budget office. The Family Court Services Fund, you'll see some proposed revenues that are a little less because we have some funds, we have some revenue that we need to write off in that. That's for some GAL services over the years. We're hoping to do that in early 2021. The law library is even more restricted. It is really just for law library purchases. It has a healthy fund balance in there, as you'll see. So we'll be taking a look at that as well in early 2021. But I think both of those funds are pretty solid, and the revenue is coming in as expected. So if you have any questions about that, that's about all I have.
Questions about the funds at all? Is that what you're looking for, Georgia?
Right.
Oh, okay, Commissioner. Oh, go ahead, Ty.
What revenue comes into Family Court Services Fund? Where is that generated from?
Marriage license fees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that holding steady, or is it increasing or decreasing?
It's holding steady, right? So that revenue looks like it's really been solid for the last several years.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Kind of sad to think that when you get married, you pay forward just in case you end up in family court later.
Like the R&R.
Statistically speaking, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Wow. I never thought of it that way, Robin.
Between
Right.
that.
Good grief. Okay. So press on then. Challenge.
So thank you so much, Olivia, or whoever's controlling this presentation. You're right on it for us, so I appreciate that. So much like the concerns discussed by the commissioners yesterday, we have a number of challenges. One of those challenges is currently related to facilities and the increased challenges around COVID and social distancing. So this is really, I'll dive into each of these as you hear our policy level requests, but I want to kind of highlight a little bit of each of these. So the first one is regarding facilities. We already have an aging facility. And now the challenges are even more increased. Court security is another huge concern, and we continue to bring this up, I think, every year or biannually to the Board of County Commissioners. We're understaffed with our court security officers, and we have a number of different proposals that we're going to share with you as we get to our policy level requests. So the third one's a big one. And we'll dive in more to that, but Thurston County Superior Court is the most underfunded judicial county in Washington state. We are currently 3 judicial officers short of what our need is, and this affects our entire judicial system and the process, and it affects the services we can provide to the community. And then the last one also has to deal with facilities and the need for just more space, especially as ITA courts and voluntary treatment at courts continue to expand. I have statistics that show we have 1,000% increase since 2000 of ITA courts and number of hearings. And we just cannot keep up with the capacity of that growing field and how to have hearings safely and in a offsite remote location, especially with COVID. So Olivia, if you could, sorry, switch to the next slide. Or Robin. Okay, so I wanted to just really jump into all of our policy level requests. I think this may be where some of the questions arise. I believe that Thurston County Superior Court has always been mindful and strongly committed to doing our part to ensure that resources are properly applied to critical services and innovations. However, we can't turn away litigants seeking protection, a fair hearing, or justice that is granted to all. One of the basic tenets of courts is equality under the law. The quality of justice a litigant receives in a case should not vary depending on what court in the state hears the case. And currently, because of how underfunded we are, there is a disparity. It's in time to see the judge. It's in time to have your matter heard. And these matters are critical to our community. They involve protection order cases. They involve release from jail. They're all mandated by the law and the time we have to do them. And we want to make sure we can provide that service that we're constitutionally mandated to supply. So I just kind of wanted to touch on some of this. And I realize you are in a very difficult spot with the budget this year and some of the unknowns with the COVID crisis. And we had originally presented this budget as a biannual budget. But we need to move forward with a request and legislative change in order to get this next judge funded. 1/2 of the salary would come from the legislator, and including all benefits. And the other 1/2 of the salary for this judicial position would have to be funded by the county. With budget cuts in 2020 due to the COVID response, we lost one position. I spoke a little bit about Georgia and how we combined financial resources and the financial team. And I agree with Robin, it was a great move. We've benefited greatly from her expertise. And it's also leaned out our process, which has been really kind of amazing. But on top of it, what we did is we had saved one position, one FTE position, which the cost was about a little over $100,000. And that position was cut in 2020 due to COVID. We were one of, I believe, 5 or 6 different departments or positions that were cut. And including, we also then got the 2% cut. As a court, we're always looking at ways we can do things better. And this is one of the ways we thought we could do things better. One was by combining financial services within our 2 departments. And the second was by finding our own resources internally and best deciding where those resources go. And so we were planning on utilizing that position to say, this is how we intend on funding this 9th judge. So we were trying our very best to come up with ways we could prioritize our needs internally. And because of the COVID crisis, that position was cut. And I understand you have to make very difficult decisions, but I just want to explain that we had really done our due diligence to find that money already within our budget. Some facts about why we're asking for this 9th judge. Our last judgeships were authorized in 1996, excuse me, but came in, we had 2, but were authorized, but came in July 2000 and July 1996 due to funding. So even though they were authorized in 1996, only one came in 1996 and the other position actually didn't come till 4 years later, July 2000. Since 2000, Thurston County Superior Court filings have increased almost 25%. Our criminal caseload has increased 18.1%. Our civil caseload has fluctuated over the last 18 years up to 79.6% increase. But since 2018 is a 62.5% increase. We continue to lead in administrative law reviews for every single jurisdiction in the state, including larger counties like King County that have, I believe, 50 judges, including their commissioners. As I spoke before, our involuntary treatment and mental illness filings have grown since 2000 by 1,042%. And as you know, we continue to seek challenges of trying to work closely with the ITA facilities that are coming on board, and we do anticipate new ITA facilities coming on board within the next year. Probation and guardianship cases have increased by 54%, and there is going to be a change in the statute there, which might increase that number even further as we move forward. Our domestic caseload has increased 8.5% since 2000, and our dependency cases have increased 20.7% since 2000. All of these things are judicial time and resource intense. I will note one thing that I think is a really positive trend that you may not have heard, but our juvenile offender filings, and Mike or Ted can probably speak more to this, have decreased 59.8% since 2000. And I think that is a sign to the community, and I hope it's a sign to the commissioners that we do really good work and we try to find innovative ways to make sure that we have criminal justice reform or any other type of reform that's headed our way. Prior to COVID, we were doing a really good job with our criminal case management flow and the number of cases and ensuring we were hearing cases timely through connections with our partners. And COVID has put a bump in our road there, but we're continuing to meet weekly with our criminal justice partners and work on innovative ways to keep services going. So I really want to emphasize, I understand that this is a heavy ask. The first step is legislative change, but in order to get that legislative change, we need a funding support from the county commissioners, and that is a change in what I had previously stated to the board. I'm happy to explain that a little bit further if you have any questions. It can have a start date that is now or in the future, and my proposal currently as it stands is for November of 2021.
Could I add additional perspective on that, Pam?
Please do, Ramiro.
So the Board of County Commissioners signed a letter on June 23rd, 2020, supporting Superior Court, the addition of the 9th judge. As Pam stated, that requires a legislative action. And in the past, I believe that letter would have been sufficient for the Board of Judicial Administration to lobby on behalf of Thurston County, with the understanding that perhaps the commitment to funding this judge will be on the following year. What I understand, and I believe what Pam alluded to, the fact that has changed. And the Board of Judicial Administration changed that, in fact, before they can lobby on behalf of Thurston County in this upcoming legislative session, there has to be a commitment of funding in 2020. It doesn't have to be a commitment for the whole year, but if we can show a commitment for, and I think that's what probably goes to the November 2021 that Pam stated, at least a portion of the salary, we can show a commitment from the county that in fact we're serious, that's my word. That will be the way in which the Board of Judicial Administration would lobby on behalf of Thurston County. Absent that financial commitment in 2020, this matter can be moving forward to the legislature, but without the Board of Judicial Administration support, which is extremely important. So I just want to provide the additional perspective. Sorry that I interrupted you, Pam.
So could I ask a clarifying question? Does the funding need to be in place in 2020 or 2021?
Anytime during the next biennial budget for the state, the BJA has said that if we have the county support for that budget, for that one half of the salary, they will propose that legislation for us.
Okay. So
otherwise, it would be up to the county to support the legislation, and the BJA would support it in terms of the need, but wouldn't propose the legislation on our behalf.
Thank you.
Not how much are we looking at then if we have to commit, not just support and letter, but commit funding, at least as a placeholder, how much would that be?
Well, depending on whether it's a full year or maybe a couple of months, and I believe what Pam is suggesting for the board to consider, funding the county's portion of the ninth judge on the last 2 months in 2020. Do you have an idea of what that is, Pam?
I think Georgia can answer that question better, but I think it ends up being about $30,000,
And
$20,000 to $30,000.
how much would it be for a full year?
A full year is one half of the salary. The salary, I believe, right now is set as $178,000 a year, which is set by a salary committee externally from the county.
I think it's higher than that, but yeah.
All right. Are you ready? You got some, yeah. I was saying, Pam, I want to go to the commissioner for some questions. Go ahead, Ty.
I thought I understood it, but now I don't. Robin asked whether this was for 2020, and then I thought I heard the answer was no, but then Ramiro's talking about starting November 2020, committing money.
I'm sorry, 2021. 2021.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I stand corrected. It's 2021. The last 2 months of 2021.
Got it. I did understand. Thank you.
Gary, any questions?
No, just if it's 2021 and we're doing an annual budget, I don't know that that's a big deal. I mean, it's just going to come, we could dedicate it. It's just kind of a bureaucratic shell game when it comes right down to it, because the money won't be spent. It'll just be dedicated for that cause and revert back into the 2022 budget then, pending fund balance.
Well, it is a commitment, even if it's 1 or 2 months. It is a commitment for 2022 to fully fund a half portion of the county's responsibility. Yeah.
And obviously, Commissioner, if we did not receive that legislative change, then that money would revert back because we could not create that ninth position. But I think Ramiro is correct. If it is funded and that position is created, we'd hope we'd be able to move forward with that ninth judge at the end of 2021. And that would mean a commitment from the county to continue one half of the funding for the salary in future years.
Yes, I agree with that.
You have more presentation to continue with on the policy level proposals, Pam?
I do, thank you. I just wanted to make sure there were no more questions. Okay, so the next priority is priority 2, and this also I think is in line with something that I heard from the commissioner's office budget, which was facilities and the need to update and ensure we have adequate facilities to do our work. As you know, I don't need to go into a lot of detail. We had a potential new courthouse that was going to go to vote this year, and that didn't happen for a variety of reasons. But we are continuing to look at other ways to do our business and to do it well. So this priority is priority 2, and it involves our offsite, or it involves our 5th courtroom at FJC. We currently have 4 courtrooms. We've made a conference room into a 5th courtroom temporarily in order to do ITA court remotely and to keep all our staff and our judicial officers safe during this time. But we need more space, and we have worked with facilities and with Ron Thomas Architect to come up with a long-term proposal for FJC that would involve a 5th courtroom at FJC. We're proposing that we use some trial court improvement money to support this, to show you that our desire and need for this is real, and we'd like to increase our trial court improvement money from $50,000 to $100,000 in order to support this effort. At this time, it is my understanding that the total cost of this is approximately $350,000, and there may be some percentage of change based on when construction occurs and soft costs and things of that nature. I know Robin is always much better at numbers than I am when it comes to facilities matters. I think the biggest issue here is I'm not sure that it ever made our capital facilities plan. And if it didn't, it's still a huge priority for us. And I want it to just be noted that we need this. And if there's any way for it to be added next year or for it to be on your radar, we want it there because it is something we have been asking for a number of years. And unfortunately, I think it didn't ever make it to into Robin's purview until maybe it was too late. So I don't know if there are any questions there.
I'm sure there are on this one. Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Aye.
I don't know that I have so much of a question. I guess I'll just point out that we're also being asked to do a number of building improvements to FGC. So your request is about creating more space, but we're also probably going to spend a fair amount of money with the roof repair and HVAC. I think there's a couple different items, which is really, I guess that's been a surprise to me. I mean, commissioners are like, I would say knee deep, but it's more like hip deep in trying to deal with the needs of this complex, which was built in the 70s. And without ever getting our hands around a solution to that, I was surprised to learn that the building at FJC, which is far newer, has all these needs for maintenance and repair. So that was an unpleasant surprise for me, frankly. And although I definitely know that you need this courtroom, it's gonna have to fold into this sort of overarching set of needs that we've got out at that building.
And I understand, and that we don't want to be in a situation with a building that we're currently in building 2 at FJC. FJC is only 20 years old, maybe 21 now. And we want to make sure that that's a long-term facility for us. And we think that in order to make it a long-term facility, the improvements are up to the Board of County Commissioners. So thank you for being mindful of that. But another courtroom space is really what we need long-term, and we're trying to find out ways to do that and to assist in that process. So I understand that it may be a heavy lift and not possible this year, but we want it on the radar, and we want it, we need it. We need it to do our business.
I would point out, Pam, you have in your statement of need that the ITA, or the involuntary treatment and mental illness filings, have increased just over 1% in the last 20 years. And I found that hard to believe. I thought it would have been quite a bit more than just 1%.
I apologize if I misprinted something. It's actually 1,042%.
Oh, 1,004. No, I apologize for misreading. I thought that's crazy. I don't mean I don't believe I just said that. And we expect the court expects it to increase, and so would I. And we have the number of mental health facilities in our county growing. I think we currently have 3 counting St. Pete's, not counting our jail. And I think 2 more are opening, or 2 have opened, or 3 are total expected. And so that brings it up to about 6 or so, 5 or 6. So that's obviously going to be a huge need, especially since it's increased over 1,000%. And COVID alone is going to increase that.
Yeah, thank you for identifying that, Commissioner. We currently have 4 ITA locations, and we anticipate 2 additional facilities opening within the next 12 months. And so luckily there is dedicated funding through the BHA for that, but it would be nice to hear about and work together with these different partners as they start to develop plans to come online earlier in the process. We often feel like we're hearing about things kind of after the fact or as things are starting to open. And I know this is an ongoing conversation that you are all trying to help us resolve, but it's continuing to grow, and we need to provide that service to the community.
And it's interesting for public consumption that these for-profit companies come in to tend to the folks with mental illness, but it puts a mandate on the BHA, Behavioral Health Administration, puts mandates on the courts as well, to include the judges and public defense, and something that we're required by law to fund and take care of. So it's one of those things we can't hardly control, but it has to be met. And I wouldn't expect that any. No, we asked that question. Okay, thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Any further questions? Go ahead, Ty.
So Pam, what, if you get the 5th courtroom, I haven't looked at the floor plans of the design. What space would you be losing by doing whatever it is you're planning to do? Because we're not adding on a piece, right? We're just reconfiguring the existing space.
Correct. So
Okay.
the proposal actually shows the 5th courtroom going where the law library is on the 2nd floor. It would take up some of the space of the, well, it actually reconfigure the space of currently where the CASA offices and the other offices on that wall are located. And there would be an additional suite or wing added, kind of that offsets off the law library space. So it would be up on the 2nd floor where all the other courtrooms are. We would still ensure that there is a law library space, but as you know, books are becoming less and less used. We have a law library in building 2, and we think we can supply the law library space that's needed at FJC with a room with a couple of books and a terminal of use to look cases and statutes and laws up.
Yes, but that room is also used as a meeting room, and then the other rooms next to it are attorney-client meeting rooms. So I'm not saying that what you're trying to do is the wrong thing, but it's just something to be mindful of. Is there's always trade-offs, and in the current court complex, you know, we hear from public defense that they don't have a place to meet their clients, and they're out in the hallways, and that was part of the argument for the new courthouse. So we're just creating that situation at FJC's, you know. By doing that, there may be no other choice, but I just want to bring that up because, you know, I mean, I know that space well. I mean, I used to practice in those halls, and I used to use that attorney-client room, and I attended the family law section meetings every month in the law library and a lot of things that we did there in that law library. It was really a conference room. I mean, I never used it as a law library, frankly, because I had my own resources to do it. It was more of a conference space, which was definitely needed in that building.
Yeah, and if I can just quickly address that, Commissioner, the space that we're intending on creating as the 5th courtroom, we've been very mindful of. That's really our meeting room with partners, and so we intend to create it as a movable courtroom space. So it could be used as a courtroom space, but it could also be used as a meeting room space. And we're really mindful of that because of that need to have that larger meeting area with stakeholders and how important that is at family and juvenile court. The area we are talking about right now, I think only has 1 meeting room currently dedicated to the public in it. And so we can look for alternative ways to provide another meeting room area in the design. There is a suite like I spoke about earlier, or I think the offset of losing 1 meeting room at FJC when we do have multiple meeting rooms on the 2nd floor would really be a huge benefit. It would also give juvenile court back conference room 35, which is another meeting room space where we often meet with stakeholders, and juvenile department meets with juveniles, which we are currently using as a temporary ITA space, but will not be sufficient if we have to have public in that room or have any other types of hearings in that room.
So we have a case study now looking at what the best possible use of space is in the FJC. That was one of the surprises when I took over management of central services, was to find that there was a space study being done on the FJC. So we do have something we could share with the board when you're ready to take a look at this.
And I'll just tell you that from our perspective, Superior Court wanted to be really mindful about doing this to ensure that we had a long-term plan with FJC so that we didn't get into a situation like we are in Building 2 where it doesn't meet our needs. So we actually commissioned that with facilities and used trial court improvement fund money for a majority of that study cost.
Gary, any questions?
No, sir.
Pam, I'm looking at the challenge in your Superior Court challenges presentation, and it's nice as a county to be #1 at something, especially being in the capital county. but being number one in underfunded judicial county is unacceptable. Is that county, state, or a combination that brings that title to us?
So that I compare us to other courts that are state trial courts. So that is a superior court analogy. It's compared to all other superior courts in Washington state. We are the most underfunded judicial county.
Yeah, and is that because the state's not giving us sufficient money, or the county's not giving us sufficient money?
Well, as you know, judgeships come from a combination of both. They come from the legislature creating the position. They fund one half of the salary for superior court judges and benefits, and the county supports the other half. I think it's really because we've tried to do everything we can without asking for more judicial officers. We're at that point now where we have to ask. And I don't think you have seen an ask. I don't think commissioners have seen an ask since 1996.
Thank you. So the legislature drives it, and we then commit to back it. And now we have to commit ahead of time, and they still haven't decided whether they're going to do it or not.
Right, but the Board of County Commissioners can select the start date of this position. So I've proposed November 2021, but you can say as a board, actually January 2022 is better. And this was one of those things when I talked about, we had the biennial budget originally, and we were actually thinking more in early 2022 for this position. But because we're in the position we are now and we need that legislative change, we are asking for November 2021. But the board sets the date for the funding commitment, and then the legislative change would follow that date.
Okay.
Hutch, I do have a comment.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess I'd just follow up on your comment that we're either at the top of the list or the bottom of the list, whatever you want to refer to it as. And that's been ongoing in this county for many, many, many years. And it also includes that same rating to the sheriff's office with deputy sheriffs per thousand. So we're equal in that regard at the court and in law enforcement officers, just to let the public know that.
Thank you. Anything else, Ty, on this one?
No.
Okay. Go ahead, Pam.
Okay, so I know I want to be mindful of time because you have other presentations today. Our court security reorganization is really to address the needs of all of the buildings on the courthouse campus and FJC. Currently, court security has screening stations in building 2, 3, and at FJC. We have 5 FTEs, and we cover the 6th position through temporary on-call staff. We are short at least 1 FTE to do the current work that we do. And we're also short for best practices. Best practices say you need screening, they say you need roaming presence, and they say you need corrections officers for transport. Well, the sheriff's office handles the transport piece. We handle the screening piece, but what we don't have currently is that roaming presence. And so this proposal asks you to consider using intra-fund money and having all of the county departments contribute to court security instead of it just coming out of our budget, but increasing that security presence throughout our campus to ensure that best practices are being followed and that we can adequately provide a safe place for the public to come and get services. Because courthouses are one of the most dangerous places for individuals. And we just want to make sure that we can appropriately provide a safe place for people to come to, where they don't have to worry about safety as they come into our building to get other services that are very critical to their needs.
Okay. Any questions or comments, commissioners?
Yes, I would. I think that is very innovative on the Superior Court's part to think about spreading the cost, because Pam is absolutely right.
Ty?
I guess I would ask Robin her perspective on whether that makes sense or would fly to spread that out that way.
Regardless of which officer department was paying, it would all be general fund.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't have any questions on that one.
So priority 4 is already in the works, and I guess I'll start by just saying thank you, commissioners and Robin and Ramiro, for recognizing the need during our COVID response for an offsite courtroom lease. This is in regards to the Chandler site. We have to ask essentially for the lease, for the 2-year lease that has been signed for this funding to support that offsite campus. And the only addition to that offsite campus is security. As you know, Superior Court is in charge of security, and in order to adequately provide staffing, I'm not asking for more than we currently have. I'm only asking for 2 court security screening officers during the next year and the lease costs. And everything else will be already staffed with our staff internally, and we're not asking for any additional there. I know we've been over this a number of times, so I'm not going to spend too much time there unless there are questions.
Gary, Ty?
Nope, she's got it.
Okay, go ahead, Pam.
Okay, the last priority for Superior Court is regarding TST funds, and it's not last because because we don't think it's important. It's very important. And I believe you've already seen a TST advisory board proposal that provides funding for the Heart Strides program, which Georgia mentioned earlier. So I'm gonna not talk too much about that unless there's questions. But I do want to talk a little bit more about our Safe Baby Court team approach. It's a therapeutic court. We are a pilot court in Thurston County. We're one of 3 currently that's funded through CCYF, Center for Children and Youth Family Services. I might have got that acronym wrong. I apologize. There's too many acronyms these days. But we're very excited to be a pilot court. It's us, it's Spokane, and it is Kitsap County. And all of the funding is grant funding through October 31st of 2021. So this is a request to keep that position that was funded through the grant going through the remainder of 2021. And Safe Babies Court team is a specialized support for children birth to 3 that are in foster care or at risk of removal from their families. It's an evidence-based approach that connects babies and their families with the support and services that they need to ensure a healthy development and lasting permanency. The outcomes from the courts that have already implemented across the US have been significant, including a decrease in racial disparity, a decrease in re-entering the system, the system anywhere, and just that ensuring that that parent bond maintains in a healthy and stable way earlier on in the process. We have a really great opportunity to do things better. And I'll just say, in 2019, our AGEP filing for dependency cases for under 1 is 34%. For 1 to 2 years old is 9%, and for 3 to 5 years old is 14%. And the trend that we're seeing for 2020 is that younger children are entering the foster care system in greater numbers with 2021. And I'm going to make an assumption. It's always bad to make an assumption, but I'm making assumptions that has to do with the COVID-related crisis that's going on and some of the extra burdens that are on everyone right now. But we feel like this program can be a huge benefit for our community to keep reoccurrence down and low. And we're asking for 2 months, and we will obviously continue to request that grant funding in the future. And so if grant funding does become available, then we will return that TST money if this is a request that we receive. I don't know, Georgia, if you have anything else to add to that.
No, I really don't. Other than kind of seeing where it goes after the pilot's completed, and hopefully would know that before October of next year too. So,
Ty, any questions on this?
I guess a question for Robin. I think we're having, I don't have my schedule handy, but Yes, I do have my schedule handy. I thought at some point we were having a TST specific presentation.
It's next Friday.
Yes,
Next Friday morning.
So I guess I'm trying to just figure out how the Superior Court's request fits in with however we're handling the TST monies as a whole, in terms of
So-
how the commission should be thinking about this.
Right. So what you'll see next Friday is all of the requests from all of the offices that are for TST funding and how the advisory committee has prioritized that list.
So this is kind of Superior Court making a pitch for a couple of the items that we're going to see next Friday as why they're
That's exactly
important.
right.
But the advisory committee is going to weigh in and maybe have a different opinion or maybe have the same opinion. We don't know.
That's correct.
Okay. And then while I've got the floor, I wanted to ask Pam on number 3. You described that as basically just adding an FTE for a roaming presence, but the ask says reorganization, and I'm wondering if there's more to it than what you described.
Yeah, so I apologize if I wasn't clear. Thank you for that clarification. We are down 1 FTE with our current operations. We need 6 FTEs and we have 5. But the reorganization actually gives the Board of County Commissioners 2 different choices because we wanted to outline 2 different choices based on previous conversations with the board. One is for all staffing, both for that roaming presence and for the screening to take place with county employees. And that would be an increase of 4 FTEs in order to increase capacity for that roaming presence. The other option is for 1 FTE and contracted screening. So all of our current FTEs that are doing screening would then become that roaming presence, but we'd have contracted screening through a separate outside contractor. And so there are 2 different options there, which is what kind of drove our FTE number up in the request for 2021, because it kind of combined all of those FTEs into 1 request. So I think there are 2 options I provided. One was employees covering both screening and roaming, and the other one is employees that are doing screening converting into that roaming category with 1 additional FTE, but contracted screening. So I want to give options for this one. These came from our court security supervisor and team, and it is, we continue to believe it's critical.
So you're really, well, so the ask is really about, the ask is to add this roaming presence, and you're giving us 2 pathways to do that. And we could say no, and that would be against the best practices and all of that. But if we didn't fund that, then it'd be the status quo, and there wouldn't be the roaming presence. So that's kind of the choice that we have to make.
Correct.
Okay, I think I got it.
Gary, questions or comments?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. I wasn't done making my notes. I would have to say, number one, thank you, Pam and Georgia also. But when we're taking all these policy level requests from every office and department, and we're ranking these high, medium, or low. And this is, let's see, we did Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today. But when you're talking about the children under the age of 3 make up 42% of child abuse and neglect, and you point out the recovery support is holistic approach to substance abuse for kids as well. And you're talking security, which is high on my radar at the offsite and the reorganization and such. And you bring up the fact that we're number 1 and the most underfunded judicial in the seat or in the county, in the state rather, and we are the capital county. I want to say thank you very little, because you're not helping me in ranking these anything other than one way. And I've given a great deliberation in every one of these, not just every one of the presentations we've had and the future ones we're going to have. But you just stated a very, very good case for the courts, and I really appreciate it, both of you. Thank you.
I really appreciate your time, and we really are trying to be mindful of the requests we make. These really are emergent needs for us, and we understand you are all in a very difficult position with the choices you need to make for funding. So thank you for that, Commissioner.
Well, it's not dour, but things are not going to get better. When I talk about the case filings and such, even though juvenile case filings are down, what, 60%? That's pretty good. That's pretty doggone good because of the work being done at the legislative level, but also in-house. So that's good news. But ITAs, involuntary treatment bills, they're going to go up. More places coming into town puts increased pressure on the county as well, and the BHA. So things we're all juggling and dealing with, but in those areas, I don't think it's going to get much better. So thank you very much. Any final? Oh, go ahead, Ty.
One more, Pam. I guess I'm looking at your priority list between 3 and 4. Given that we've already done B0605, like we've already done that. So if there were only money to do one of the other two, wouldn't we have to do B0606 as a higher priority than B0608? If that makes sense.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. We need court security in order to open the offsite facility. So it is a priority. It's really hard to prioritize our needs because I think you guys had this discussion with pretrial services and about pretrial services and where they went within different courts a number of years back. Pretrial services was with district court and they were with Superior Court. And we have court security, which is a high priority for us, but it's mixed in with all of our other priorities. And to us, court security is more than just the courts. It provides protection for the public. It provides protection for the offices and departments doing business in each courtroom. And so really, we want to prioritize all of our needs. All 5 of these are top level priorities. If we could list them all as one, we would. And I know that doesn't really answer your question, but yes, we cannot open the building without the court security presence. If I had to prioritize that, I would, but I feel like that is a situation that has been made out of COVID, and I understand where we are, but we still have other needs that are critical to our business and moving forward for the public in a safe way.
I understand, Pam. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an aspect I was missing. And I know how arbitrary it is to prioritize these a little bit. You know, sometimes it's about the dollar amounts, right? It's like this thing that may not be as important, but to me, it seems like higher priority because we can actually accomplish it because it's maybe a smaller dollar amount versus something bigger that, yeah, in theory, you'd love to be able to do that, but it's not doable. So it becomes a lower priority only because of its achievability, not necessarily because of its importance. There's several factors. So I get that. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I just want to make sure that, if I fund 3 and not 4, and then we can't open the offsite court, that's not going to help. All right.
Yeah,
Gary,
thank you
anything?
for that.
No, sir.
Robin, anything else to add?
No, just to thank Pam and Georgia for doing an excellent presentation. Good job.
Thank you.
I agree. Romero, anything final?
No, sir. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
I
Nice to
also
meet you,
thank
Georgia.
you very little for helping me prioritize these.
Yeah, it's all right.
Apologies. Thank you.
Who's presenting on juvenile?
Oh, Georgia.
Ted Bryan, our detention manager, will be here. He'll be joining me in a few minutes.
Okay. So you want to take a break for until he arrives?
Yeah,
So
5
he's
minutes.
ready to go.
5 minutes.
What'd you say,
Yeah, well,
Robin?
let's take 5 so I can switch out the.
Okay. We're in recess for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In 3, 2, 1.
And we're back after a short break. And now we're going to hear a presentation from Ted Bryan, Juvenile Court, as we continue the budget discussions. Go ahead, Ted. Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
I think Georgia probably has more information on the presentation than I do. All the documents were submitted. There you go. They're
Perfect.
ready to go. Go to the next slide.
Well, before you do that, go back to the beginning and kind of just describe for the public, because we're being live streamed as well, as to what Juvenile Court does.
Okay. Well, yeah, Juvenile Court, officially does legal intervention for youth up to 18 years of age, both for criminal issues and civil procedures. The civil procedures would include, under the BECA law, truancy and at-risk youth. At-risk youth meaning kids are at risk, out of control of their parents, possible drug use, not coming home, running away behavior, what used to be termed incorrigible, but just, pretty much normal adolescence, but parents need some support. And then we also have a guardian ad litem dependency services through family and juvenile court. And the DGALs, or guardian ad litems, monitor volunteers and youth that are dependent and under the supervision of the court and the Department of Child and Youth Family Services.
I'll start off with a question before we get into the numbers, and that is, we just had a presentation from Pam Hartman-Beyer and Georgia Christian regarding a number of things at Superior Court, and it was pointed out that since 2000, juvenile filings have decreased by almost 60%. Have we seen that same trend following this current year, 2020?
Yeah, I'm not, Georgia, do you know about filings? I'm not familiar with the probation numbers.
Oh, we do see, we continue to see sort of that just kind of leveling off right now. There's more diversion services for kids right now. Rather than coming to court, there's early intervention programs. We often give ourselves credit for the things we've implemented in the last 20 years with some evidence-based programs. We feel like those have really shown some of the recidivism rates go down, and as well as some of these diversion services that we have in place. The prosecutor's office can probably give you more information about that in terms of that, but I think it's sometimes often the work that we're doing with the kids.
That often influences or impacts the population at juvenile as well, and that's been pretty low consistently now for years.
That has changed over the last few years, and that's consistent statewide. We do a lot of things. The research says to get involved with kids, get them some services, and then pretty much get out of their life and see how they do. And so we've developed lots of other alternative programs, and that is filtered to even our diversion services and trying to keep kids out of formal court. But there's still work to do. Like I always say, I've been trying to work myself out of a job for 37 years, but the kids keep coming back.
Keep coming back. All right. Well, thank you for that framework for the public consumption as well. Go ahead with the presentation.
So I can speak to the funds managed by Juvenile Court. We're largely a general fund agency. We do have some detention and sales tax funding coming in that pays for 5 FTEs in our detention center, as well as all our extra help funding. And extra help we use for vacation leave, sick leave, higher populations, travel. If we have not staff travel, but taking kids to medical appointments or transporting them to another court facility. We'll see a change request in our packet for detention sales tax increase. It's really not an increase. It is to add back our benefits to our extra help costs, and those costs are related to Social Security, retirement, some medical that we have to pay for those folks that work extra hours. So you'll see that, not really an ad, more of just a stabilization of that funding. Our treatment sales tax pays for 2 probation counselors that do JABA. Juvenile justice behavioral health, I believe, I'm not sure.
Alternative, yes.
Thank you. And also pays for our Heart Strides program. We do 4 cohorts this year, and next year we're probably going to be doing that as well with Heart Strides, the equine therapy unit. So our kids, mostly in civil and in probation, are going through that service, and that's the funding sources for juvenile court.
Any questions or comments, Jerry?
No, sir.
Aye. So, no questions. That's it.
Yeah, and then I think like everyone else, we're getting through COVID, trying to see what happens through COVID and what our bounce back is, what the county bounce back will be. We've kept positions open, relying on some of the extra help, relying on Georgia and Ted and Dana to do some other work we wouldn't normally do. But we're piecing together 2020 and looking forward to 2021.
Good. Joy, you want to talk more about challenges or get into the policy level proposals?
I do want to highlight one of the challenges that we may see in the coming year. We have several, we call them grants historically, but they're really legislative pass-through funding for our programs. It provides infrastructure for FTEs. They're not competitive grants. Like, for example, our BECA program that funds truancy and youth at risk programs. It's a formula-based legislative pass-through. We are concerned because of COVID and the revenue streams that we may see some impacts on those amounts. We haven't heard anything yet, but we suspect there might be some legislative cuts for that. We also, in 2021, one of the reasons Mike Fenton's not here is because he's using up some of his time. He's retiring. So we will have some leadership changes in the upcoming year as well. So that transition will be upcoming. So some of those challenges with some historical knowledge leaving with him.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish Mike very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Georgia,
Yes.
with Mike leaving, this is an opportunity to talk about leave buyout, and
Yes.
that's something the board hasn't heard about before. Could you just say how leave buyout for a long-term employee might impact your budget?
Yes. Well, so Mike has been here, I think 40 years. And so he has a lot of leave that he needs to use, of course. And then he also has sick leave because he's got a sick leave bank from years ago that we have to use. And it will be going to his VIBA, but we're still having an impact on our budget to pay him out, which means that potentially we can't fill his spot until we make up the money for that. And I think we're banking on literally about $40,000, which isn't coming Mike's way necessarily, but it has to be reserved for him. So it means that there's not a lot of negotiation availability for a new JCA. If we have to keep it at the level of what is budgeted for Mike's payout and ongoing costs. So it means that it could mean that his position is vacant for several months until we make that deficit up. And if we had, we in our department, we have several people in the next few years that are coming up for retirement, and they will be in the same position. If we have 3 or 4 people in that position and they leave close to the end of the year, that is a big impact on a department. So it's well worth noting, and it would be great if we could have some level of planning around that, because it's hard, right? And if somebody surprised you and decided to leave 12/31, I mean, you're kind of that's a hard place to be in.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about the buyout.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
That's a big impact.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Ty.
Can you describe bullet 3 a little more in detail in terms of what positions are vacant and how service delivery would be compromised if that situation continues?
Well, I can tell you, right now we had a recent retirement of a probation officer, so we're short that person. We were looking at filling one of our court assistant positions, and trying to fill that vacancy. But there's 3 vacancies in detention. One through retirement, one through a spouse deployment, and just had a young man hired at Boeing, laid off at Boeing, and then they brought him back as a EMT. So effective October 15th, we'll have three vacant positions in detention. 2 of them are leadership positions in detention. I guess how that changes things, people run juvenile court. The best thing we have going are the people that serve kids and families. And when the full-time staff aren't here, there's not that consistency. We lose some of that service delivery and that consistency. So we're hoping to fill those vacancies again. That's part of the bounce back plan for 2021. But
you're budgeted to fill those positions in 20. I mean, is it a matter of what's the hold, or what's the obstacle for filling the position?
Well, the obstacle was COVID-19. Things stopped. We respected part of the hiring delay, even though we're a 24/7 operation. But we wanted to make sure the people that were working and employed in juvenile court remained employed and working in juvenile court. We didn't want to lay anyone off, and that was really Mike's big push, and we've supported that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ty.
Anything, Gary, yet?
No, sir.
All right, I have one question. In the notebook, right, you have 3 priorities for policy level request, but in our notebook, we only have 1, which is number 3. Is that because it's
Hey, Hutch, this is Denise. I can help you on that.
Thank you.
It was a difference between items that were classified as policy versus maintenance. And so for rating purposes, it's all policy items.
Okay. So we're looking at really just ranking 1. Policy request is B0804. No?
Yes.
Yes? And it's a reduced revenue?
Yes, and quite frankly, you could rate that, all of you could rate it low, and we would still take the revenue reduction because the state's not going to send the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Revenue adjustment.
Right.
It's in the negative, 16,000 minus. That's a reduction of revenue. No problem.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just to further clarify, I hope. I ranked these priorities just so that they wouldn't fall off the radar, and I knew they wouldn't by the budget office. But I probably said that they were policy level requests, and they maybe moved to maintenance level or something to that nature. So we already know, priority 2 is taken care of. And right. So.
Georgia, have you done extensive looking through the budget to see what else could be sucked up by TST, perhaps?
We do have discussions about that periodically, and we move some interfund funding to that as we have new 2 probation counselors in that role now. Yeah, we do periodically take a look at that and discuss that with Carrie in the TST office. We have done that.
Okay, good. You have your eye on the ball. Good, thank you.
Yeah, can I just,
Go ahead, Ted. I'll wait for you.
okay, I was just going to add to what George just said. We, our focus really has been on mental health services for kids. We've just seen a really increase in a need for kids' mental health. COVID-19 has not helped that with kids at home and other family issues that's come from. And then we spend also a lot of time working on drug issues and getting youth to drug treatment. So that's really the kind of the bulk of the probation staff's time is spent on mental health and drug treatment.
Very good. Any other? Oh, go ahead, Todd. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, one of the signature programs that you guys have is the garden. And I know with COVID-19, I'm sure there's been changes to what's been going on in 2020. So I guess I'd like to hear about that. And then just to make sure that, I think we all love the idea of kids gardening and not sitting in detention. And so just want to make sure that that you have what you need there. And if there's any requests that relate to that in the future, please don't hesitate, because I think it's just done nothing but be positive for the community.
Yeah, Shane was just asking for chicken manure, so we're working on that. But actually, we have six kids there today. We were shut down in the youth development program for about a month by court rule, and we were trying to really limit how much traffic came through detention and into programs. So we had about a month with no youth, but we're still working the garden. We haven't had as many kids as past years, but we did open it up to 10, and we were separating kids and social distance, and kids were working outside. But we've been working down at the food bank with kids. Still, I think we'll be in about the 4,000 pound range to the food bank. Well, last year we were at 7,000 pounds. And that's just kind of a change in the process. We've also added kids on electronic home monitoring to keep them out of detention. We've had up to 10 kids. I think we have 7 right now. So we're always looking at alternatives to formal detention. But again, that is driven by other people watching them in other ways. So
I'm really glad to hear that you've been able to have kids in there. I wasn't sure about that, and I just wanted to make sure that I know gardens take upkeep and maintenance and care all through the year. So I just want to make sure that that's available when hopefully we get out of this pandemic and our garden will be stronger than ever. So thank you for keeping it going.
Yeah, we did a lot of weeding this past week, and we're tilling the soil and already Shane does a process for the winter, and then we'll start up again in the spring, and over the winter time we'll have starts and other things going. So
as the name change, is it still Seeds of Change? Because I saw it referred to, I think it is the Give Back Garden.
It's a full title, the Seeds of Change Give Back Garden.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've put it all under our umbrella of the youth development program.
Okay, and it's a powerful program. The testimonial from the kids that have worked it in the past and the successes they've become as adults is just amazing. Very, very cool.
Yeah, we're awful proud of that and proud of what we're doing with the garden. We're really disappointed that we can't have a formal harvest celebration this year. But I'll give you a sneak peek. We're working on a virtual presentation. So.
Oh, very good. And I think this is the first time I've heard chicken manure in all these budget talks.
I'm sure it is.
Thank you for that.
I never thought I'd be talking about chicken manure here. So, but those are kind of what we've come to, and it is a good program, and kids have had a lot of success in it. We've put some kids to work and put them in out to other agencies and into Habitat for Humanity and into the work source. So we're proud of it.
That's great. Very good. As a board member of Habitat for Humanity, that's vitally important to me. Good. Anything else, commissioners? No? Go ahead, Robin, please. I'm going to you next.
I do have a question about the reduction in revenue for the lunch program. So, Georgia, you've got the reduction in revenue that we'll have from the state because we have less kids in detention. Will we also have lower costs? And if not, why not?
Well, we will have lower costs, but what we are asking is it's not really dedicated to the food service program. So we'd like to keep those professional services expenditure side in our budget to do some of the things like we're talking about. You know, you're right. I mean, you know, you could lower the expenditure as well, because we are getting less revenue for it. But we would like to, we would ask that it not be reduced so that we can do some other things rather than just buy food for the kids too, right? So
Yep.
it could provide other services. It's just all in our professional services funding, yeah.
Right.
Very good. Well, Georgia, thank you.
Ted, thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you have anything, Romero, before we shut it down?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Ted, it's good to see you again, sir.
Thank you. Thanks. Good. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job, Ted, on your first budget fight with the board.
Yes. And
Well, Mike,
introducing a
I
new
asked
word.
Mike, honestly, I asked Mike, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? And he really gave me no input, just answer the questions. And it's like, okay, I can do that. So hopefully
You
I
have to tell them
did.
you have to tell them what you brought to us, though.
Yeah, I mentioned chicken manure.
You did.
Soften them up with chicken manure and then you're smooth.
And it was
sailing.
it was in the right context, so it's okay.
Yeah, but don't give it to him in the right context. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Robin,
Thank
do we need
you.
to take a break,
Thank you.
or is the clerk's office ready to go?
The clerk's office until 11, so we don't know if they're ready.
Okay, good. We're-
Yes, they I already reached out to them because they thought we were running ahead. They can be ready at 10:30, or let's take a break and come back at 10:35.
10:35 it is. We're in 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
In
No.
3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome
Okay.
back from the break, and we're continuing on with the budget discussion and presentation from the clerk's office. And we now have the court clerk, Linda Meyer-Enlow, joining us, and she has staff as well that'll be attending and providing information. And so go ahead, Robin.
So I just want to welcome Linda and thank you and your team for being able to come in a little early so we can keep this moving. I'm going to share my screen so you'll see your presentation come up, but please introduce your staff and take it away.
Okay. So I have Tawny Sharp, my Chief Deputy Clerk, on the call, and also Brian Stallman, my Financial Manager. And they will jump in and assist as needed. So I will go ahead and start. So I'm looking at mine on my computer and the one here. Okay. So I won't read this whole thing. I think most everyone knows what the clerk does. The clerk is the keeper of the record, and I also manage the financial records for the court. In a nutshell.
This is being live streamed on YouTube as well, being live streamed to the public.
Okay, so they can't see it. So I will read it then. So the clerk's responsibilities are to maintain, preserve, and protect the integrity and accuracy of Superior Court records and to provide the most efficient means for the public to purchase documents online and to electronically file documents. Provide staff for all court proceedings to keep the record of the court's decisions for the public. Collect statutory fees, fines, trust funds, and support funds. Maintain a trust account for monies received for Superior Court cases. Receipt and disperse monies ordered by the court. And provide an investment plan for monies held. Provide access to justice by assisting victims of domestic violence and self-represented litigants. Maintain a collections program to collect legal financial obligations from criminal defendants. The funds managed by our office are listed here. The FTE count is 44 and a half. Proposed for 2021, 47.75. How much of this do I need to read?
Oh, how many employees you have?
So currently 44 and a half FTEs. We have two additional funds, family court services and legal financial obligation funds, of which those two funds have, oh my goodness, I forget. LFO has how many FTEs, Tawny? Brian?
It has 2.
And the family court services?
Has 2.5 currently.
Okay, thank you.
So, and those are part of the 44.5. That includes the ones that are billed to.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
And the legal or the LFO, legal financial obligations, those are fines and fees paid to the court?
Yes, by criminal defendants.
Okay.
And Linda, where did the family court services revenues come from?
They come from a portion of, there's a surcharge on the filing fee and user fees that are charged for appointments held by the family court facilitators, and also for the sale of forms and packets with instructions that self-represented litigants purchase to get their cases started.
I do have a quick question on the first table.
Okay.
They proposed the current FTEs in 2020 is 44.5, and the proposed 2021 is 47.75, an increase, as you stated, with just about 3 new positions. But if I see the department total budget in 2020 is $4,791,000, it seems to be a reduction in 2021 to $4,749,000. I'm just curious how that works.
Tawny, Brian?
I'll have to have Tawny answer that since she's the one that put the slides together.
Good question, Romero.
Tani, are you muted? Is she still on?
Yeah, I have two.
Yeah, she's muted.
I have two accounts in here from Tony.
Okay, I see her there, but I don't know if she hears us. She's muted.
Is she joining us via the telephone number?
She's the 7910212.
Okay.
Can you unmute her or?
Let me see if I can try and unmute her. No, since it's a phone, she needs to unmute. I think it's a *9 if she's joining us by phone.
Okay, hopefully she can hear that.
She just left.
Uh-oh.
I have two accounts with Tawny. So I don't know what is going on.
She says she's on and waiting for it to start. Has she been let into the
Well,
room?
I admitted two accounts. I have two accounts under Tawny. So I don't know what.
One must be Brian.
No, Brian's on his own.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. My speakers on my computer weren't working, so I am using my computer to see the screens and then dialed in on my phone to hear you guys.
Problem solver.
Did you hear the question, Tani?
I did not, sorry.
Oh, okay, the question was the difference in department total from 2020 second quarter revised from 4.791 to 4.749. Why the difference?
Considering there's a request of 3 additional FTEs.
Yeah, from 19 to 20?
Yes,
From
21.
21.
Those were the numbers that that Patty provided me that were in Questica for our budget numbers. Is the question why it goes down a little bit?
Well,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Instead of going up when you're adding FTEs.
We want
I
to
don't
know how to
think,
do
do
that.
those numbers include that change request for the,
They should. So we can check the budget numbers and get back to you with either the revisions or the explanation on why it might go down.
Yeah, we can go back to that. Yeah.
Is that because it's funded by the auditor's office? Is that one of the
No,
positions?
even if it's funded by the auditor's office, it would be included in the clerk's budget. So
Yeah,
that's
because-
not,
Yeah, as an additional revenue for somebody from somewhere else. Yeah.
there'd be the revenue, but it wouldn't be a reduction in expenditures.
Right.
Okay.
So Brian, is that the number of our 2%?
The 2% would have been taken out in 2020.
yeah, 2% would have been 2020. Yeah,
I don't know. Those are the numbers that on Friday or a week ago, Patty, I asked her to send me the numbers out of Questica, and that was what she gave me. So we can double check and see where that difference is coming from.
Yeah, we'll double check.
I'm pulling them right now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that when I'm looking at the FTEs, I think that the FTE number should be the 47.75 because that's our increase of our FTEs with the ITA increase in 2020.
So I haven't, what we have for FTEs in 2020 is 44.5, and then there should be a policy request for 2021 that increases that.
There is for it.
Right. So we're going to double check the numbers and we can get back to those, but let's go on to the challenges.
Okay, so currently our challenges are the increasing workloads with the limited funding, staffing needs as the involuntary commitment facilities are expanded and added, and those hearings continue to grow weekly. Retaining staff due to outdated job descriptions. We continually struggle to keep employees because the pay is so low for particularly the court clerk position. And when we post for positions, it's been difficult to find qualified candidates. The legal financial obligations and facilitator funds revenues not able to sustain current needs. And our customer service counters at the main courthouse and family juvenile court are not adequate to provide efficient and effective public service. And now that's even worse due to COVID issues. So any questions on the challenges?
I do. Let me check with my seatmates for a time.
I guess, Linda, as at least up to a couple of years ago, I was at family juvenile court a lot, and I always thought your team did a great job of providing customer service. So I'm wondering, has things deteriorated in the last couple of years because of workload, or what exactly are you keying in on that you feel like not adequate?
The main thing for family court is the area. It's probably fine for the public, but the staff, there is not much room for the staff behind the counter. When this building was built, that area was never really adequate. It's difficult. There's no room to walk behind staff. It'd be nice if I could actually have 3 staff at the counter. There's counter space for that, but there's not work area behind them or walking area. And at the main office, that area is very poorly designed. And I'm sure if anybody has been there to see, the 2 people at the counter can only wait on 1 person at a time.
So when you say customer service counters in this slide, you're talking about you're really talking about the physical space layout.
Yes, okay. I believe so. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong in remembering why we put this here.
Yeah, it is. It's the physical space. So it's a building remodel issue of that area that we would need to look at to resolve it.
Yep. And right now we are, the main courthouse is still, clerk's office is closed. We take appointments only, and family court has been open, but we're only allowing 1 person at a time into the front area.
At time. Gary?
No, I'm good.
I have a question, a couple questions, Linda, and that is number 1, looking at the managed funds again, the previous slide, it shows the LFO. I guess number 1, the question with LFO, with the not having court cases because of COVID for quite some time, is that that'll impact that revenue? It's going to decrease considerably.
Brian, can you address that? Because he's monitoring.
The LFOs are more off of when we put collection costs on cases. During COVID, we found that there were people still working, so we're still able to make payments. The LFO fund really didn't get affected that much when COVID hit. It was more of the facilitator fund that got hit by the COVID because there wasn't as many appointments and people getting packets. So with the LFO fund, it's more of collection fees that we put on the actual cases. That's where we get the funding for those.
Okay, thank you. And looking at the LFO obligation on the funds managed by department, there it goes, it's up the screen, good. The bottom line shows proposed revenues for this year of $177,000 and expenditures of $205,000.
Where are you at? I'm sorry.
The bottom line, or the bottom line of that slide that's up, the funds managed by the officer. Look at LFO. collections,
Yeah.
177 coming in and 205.7 going out. What are the expenditures? And that still leaves a fund balance of 55,000.
That's for 2 staff.
That's for 2 staff.
Yeah, we have 2 collection officers, and they're both at the highest
Scale.
the scale. Yeah.
Okay. Now look at the.
But I want to.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is Tani. I'm sorry. I wanted to circle back. There has been some, especially initially, hit on the collection fund of new cases that were coming into collection because there's been a very limited number of criminal cases being heard since the start of COVID, and it's just recently that we've really been starting to have some cases go to being finished with the JNS and assessed. So the COVID has had a hit on new cases coming into the collection.
Oh, thanks, Tani. That's what I wanted to hear. That's kind of what I suspect. And so looking at the challenges.
Before you move on, Commissioner, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're fine.
You may want to look at the financial plan. I'm going to pull in the financial plan for family court services, because when you look at the slide that's on your screen, you see we're starting at an estimated beginning fund balance of only $6 and growing it only ever so slightly. So I'm going to see if I can actually make this a size that fits on the screen. And perhaps the Brian or Tani can talk about what's going on with this fund. But the fund balance, projected fund balance at the end of 2022 is in the red. So what's going on?
Right. And so
Go ahead, Tani.
that is actually one of our policy or our requests, is we have a half time of our records. Is the records coordinator out of there, Brian?
Records manager.
Well, yeah, the coordinator.
Yeah.
Or coordinator, right?
We're proposing to move. We have a half of our records coordinator that still comes out of this fund. And if you guys recall, almost every budget year we ask for positions to come out of this fund because we have 2 facilitators that should be coming out of this fund, and then we still have one half of a records coordinator that their salary comes out of this fund. And our policy, one of our policy change is to move that half time out of this fund and make it coming out of the auditor's M&O fund, which will actually help this fund then to be better positioned.
Okay.
But I guess I have a follow-up question on what just Tani stated.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a one-time strategy because the auditors, what she has in this fund is not a long-term.
That's correct.
So it goes back to perhaps although may help this fund in 2021, but moving into 2022 is going to be an issue for those positions.
Right.
Yes, and
We'll need to ensure that any work being done by the FTEs that would normally be charged to this fund are eligible for that record.
Right.
Activities that we could build to the M&O. But you see the revenue right here that's assumed it's about $55,000. I'm going to see if I can there. And that's a one-time thing on the plan. Without that and with continued spending at this level, this fund will be in trouble. Okay, thank you for that. So
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I got more clarifying questions.
Yep.
Looking at the FTEs, 44.5 last year, 44.5 this year. and I can see the increase. Can you tell me what you had FTEs in 17 and 18?
Brian, Tony,
I think we had around 40.
40 or 41. Yeah.
Yeah, between 40 and 42.
Okay, so it's increased by 1 or 2 or so.
Yeah,
So
it was when we got those ITA positions.
Okay, so I'm looking
We
at
got 3 AT positions.
I'm sorry, Tony, I cut you off. Go ahead.
We got a total of 3 positions due to the ITA revenues.
Yes.
Oh, good. So looking at the challenges, the third one is retaining staff due to outdated job descriptions. Is that because of job creep? Staff is being asked to do more?
No.
Or, I mean, you're not losing people.
We here, 2 years ago, Tony requested that HR look at our positions to evaluate them and move forward with reclass whatever was needed. That's pretty much been gone by the wayside. We have not heard anything more on that.
Well,
That was my
we
next
have heard
question.
they've told us no.
Is that what?
No.
We've continually asked, and it's not part of their current work plan to because it would involve. They say that it would involve then re-looking at all of the law and justice positions, not just our office.
Well, that was going to be my next question, if you'd asked HR and working on the job descriptions.
So I think that while it may not be on the work plan for this year or next year, I believe the board is aware, Romero can speak better to this than I can, I think, that HR is doing a job classification study, and they can only do so many positions in each year. So they will eventually rotate through all county positions, and the positions for the clerk's office will be included in that. I'm not sure when on their work plan these positions fall, but they will be reviewed.
Okay.
I agree. That's what we've been told, but I believe we were pretty much last in that list. Correct, Tony?
Well, I don't, we're way down on the list, and it's my recollection that as part of the positions that have been agreed upon with the union that would be reviewed, ours is not on that list in this contract, a 3-year contract.
Okay.
That's certainly something we can follow up on with HR.
Yes, thank you.
I saw Romero taking notes. Looking at the last one of the challenges, the customer service counter, and I agree it's not adequate. Did you receive any or apply for any CRF money?
No.
Did not receive? Did you apply and not get any?
We have not applied.
Okay, thank you.
Should we?
I guess, Commissioner, didn't understand the question about the CRF money.
I thought when the CRF money, when we had that money, that departments or offices were asked if they needed any and what they would use it for.
Oh, we have applied both through the county and the ALC for funding. We did receive a little bit that we used to install drop boxes outside of each building. And then we received money through the CARES funding through ALC for the our needs for the off-site court room.
Okay.
But not for this item.
Okay, and this,
correct, but we have received some money.
And I don't know if this is what you asked Ty or along with it about the inadequacy of your service counter. It's been inadequate, in my opinion, but is that, even though the office is open or the county is open by appointment, it's not set up because it's not because of Corona or COVID-19.
No.
It's just space and design.
Correct.
Okay. That's it. Thank you. All right. Any other questions regarding the challenges before we move on to the policy level proposals? Nope. Okay.
Okay, so Tawny already talked about actually it's records coordinator position, not manager, in the second bullet under priority 1. And then the other part of policy or priority 1 request was to extend the records auditor positions that we've had through the end of 21 for one FTE and through the end of June for the other. And that's all out of the M&O fund. Tanya has worked with Diana Benson to come up with this plan for working on the backlog of auditing the clerk's records. Priority 2 is a policy request for hiring of 3.5 FTEs in conjunction with Superior Court's request for another judicial officer.
So, questions or comments, commissioners? Gary?
No, sir, I'm doing fine.
Okay. Ty?
Linda, could you expand a little bit on the 3.5 there in terms of, is that to keep it consistent with current staffing levels? Is that, legal requirement? Like what's the flexibility in that, or lack of flexibility? If you could describe.
Well, in the past for previous requests for a new judge, we have gone to, I believe AOC's weighted, I can't remember what it's called, but there was a standard by which for each judicial officer, there would need to be this many FTEs per judicial officer request. So we've based that on previous requests. In terms of, is there flexibility in that? I don't know. Historically, Tawny, how many have we gotten for, say, the last couple judges?
I think the last time we got 3 FTEs when the last judge was added.
Okay.
And I can't remember the one before that. But,
yeah,
with an additional judge, there's more cases being heard, more paperwork because the cases are being heard. So, it just increases the workload in our staff, not only to staff the court hearings, but all the stuff that has to happen in the background.
Yes.
That answers 95% of my question. And just to follow up, are we meeting, I understand that to be a standard, and is that kind of what, are we meeting that standard now in terms of that staffing ratio, or are we behind?
Oh, I want to say we're not meeting it, but Tawny?
Well, I think, we have, if you look at the number of judicial officers, I think that's pretty much right in there where we are right now with our staffing levels.
Okay. There you go. Thank you, Tawny.
We're very close.
Anything else, Ty? Is that it?
Well, I guess I'm going to confess that I don't 100% have mastery over the nuances of this first piece in terms of money from one fund and extending the position and the auditor's M&O. I know we talked about the auditor's M&O fund earlier in the week, but if Robin can clarify that, or if anybody wants to add anything to help me just really dial it in, I'd appreciate it.
So I can jump in on that. So as you know, the Clerk's M&O fund is a restricted use fund, and the thing that it can be used for is preservation of historical documents. So you've heard Mary talk about how she's adding documents that go back all the way to the 50s. Well, the clerk has the same type of responsibility to preserve documents related to the courts.
Forever.
Yes, forever. It's got to be preserved forever. So from way back when the state, probably before the state became a state, through into the future, we have to have those records. And a lot of it is still paper. It needs to be digitized, if you will, so that the paper, one of the challenges, of course, with paper is it's deteriorating, and then, where do you put it all? So these positions, since it's document preservation, the clerk, the auditor's M&O fund can pay, regardless of which office is doing that document preservation. So what Mary and Linda have worked out is that there's capacity in the M&O fund to pay for the positions in the clerk's office to continue to do the document preservation.
Correct. Thank you, Robin.
So is this just the back side of the request we heard from Mary?
Yeah, this is the spending side. Mary showed you the revenue side. You see the revenue in one of these pieces coming into Linda's restricted fund, but Linda needs expenditure authority in both those areas. This is one of those transfer things that we would clean up if we were doing direct appropriation, but we're not quite there yet.
That's it? Ty, that's it?
Yep.
Linda, anything further? Either from you or Brian or Tani?
I have nothing more to add. Tani, Brian?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the time to go over and answer questions. I
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Hang on, Linda. Anything else, Robin? Or Romero?
No, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
thank the clerk and her team for coming in and spending this time today. And we will get back to you, commissioners, with more information about the financial page.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Linda. And Tani and Brian. Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
all.
very much.
Okay,
you.
goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
With this concludes our morning session on budget. We heard from Superior Court, Juvenile Court, and now the Clerk's office. And we're going to adjourn until 1:30 this afternoon. And then we're going to hear from District Court, Prosecuting Attorney, and Public Defense. So we're adjourned now.
An exciting way to wrap up the week.
It is law and justice. Love it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.